This idea, like, what do you think? They're the best storytellers? That's how you get the best outcomes, that like a teacher's just, the way that she speaks is just unbelievable. And so instead of giving her 30 students, we're going to give her 10 million students. And none of those students are going to know her. She's just going to be on TV. Here is the worst attempt I saw so far of like, here's my ideas. Here's what we're going to do after we defund the Department of Education.
But when we looked at the budget in Kentucky, the state receives $2 billion in federal education funding. Do you have a guarantee that the federal government, federal taxpayers will still provide $2 billion in education funding? That seems important to your state.
I'd rather, well, no, what I'd rather is a guarantee that my kids can read and write and do math. The amount of dollars, look, the number of dollars has gone up exponentially and our scores have gone the other way. So dollars are not proportional to educational success. What I want is success. And I've talked a lot about this. I think there are innovations we can do where there's more learning via some of the best teachers and we pay them more. I would like to have an NBA or NFL of teachers, the most extraordinary teachers, teach the entire country.
Who would run that? The education department?
Some of them. No, what you'd find is they'd be selected out state by state, across the.
Okay, so just so we're clear, what he wants to do is he wants to make the MBA of teachers. This is a person who doesn't understand what teachers do. This is a person who doesn't understand how children learn and what's important for children to learn. I grew up with my mom was a teacher. I've mentioned this before. A decorated teacher, a great teacher, one of the best to ever do it. Some would say GOAT status in the state of Utah. But here's his explanation now. Like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find just the best teachers.
Selected out state by state, across the nation. Look, people say, oh, with the Department of Education would have no testing. I was in school before then. We did achievement tests in the 6th grade, the 5th grade, the 8th grade, and we compared ourselves across state lines. There were international testing.
Yeah.
You don't need the Department of Education for any of that. But what I can tell you is the best teacher in the world is not teaching the kids.
Yeah.
What we need to do is have the best teachers and pay them more, but they wouldn't teach 30 kids. They might teach 10 million kids at a time because it would be presented through the internet with local teachers reinforcing the lessons.
Yeah. Let's move the Department of Education to YouTube. Let's have the good teachers teach. Like, that's the problem, is a good teacher teaching has nothing to do with like their ability to teach complex subjects. These aren't complex subjects. Like you're teaching a first grader, you're teaching them simple things. So a lot of that is like your teacher's ability to interact with your kid one-on-one and try different things. Like I had some really, really great teachers in my life. My 6th grade teacher I mention all the time. Like she just took a special interest in me. I was somebody who like I got the answers right. I hated homework. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't pay attention. So she adjusted like basically the expectations, and she put me into a different class where I was with kids from grades above me. And so I could go to that class and it was something new to me. So I would actually pay attention. Then I came back for the other subjects. Like they were able to move stuff around. That's what good teachers do. This idea, like, what do you think? They're the best storytellers? That's how you get the best outcomes, that like a teacher's just, the way that she speaks is just unbelievable. And so instead of giving her 30 students, we're going to give her 10 million students. And none of those students are going to know her. She's just going to be on TV. It's silly. Like they don't have an answer for what they're doing. And the reason they don't have an answer like for replacement is because the replacement is Christian nationalism. They just want teachers to be teaching about Jesus, and that's it. Keep the population dumb, keep the population uninquisitive, and that way they'll grow up to be really good workers. And that's it. They're just good workers, and they'll follow orders, and they'll work for shitty wages, and they'll be grateful for every drop that the billionaires drop down to them.
Well,
it's so stupid. Like, give me an idea. If you're going to replace the Department of Education with something, your idea better be better than YouTube. Let's just broadcast it. This is the same shit you guys got mad about during COVID. You're like, oh, well, there's no teacher to student in-person interaction. And so these kids are struggling. We saw what happened. Look at the test scores during COVID. Kids don't want to learn from somebody on TV. It's not going to work. This is nonsense. And then what'll happen is then they'll be like, oh, this doesn't work. Public education doesn't work. So state by state, these red states will just get rid of public education, and it'll all be private education. And there goes your ability to track like who's being educated, who's being left out. Like are poor families able to get their kids to a school? How do we even track all that? Are we going to have a nationwide testing? No, it's just going to be done on a school by school basis. Again, you can look across the entire world and you can say, who's the best at education? We're nowhere near the top. But you take the top 15 countries at education and you look, every one of them has a very strict Department of Education. They have curriculum. They track the curriculum. They make sure that teachers are presenting the curriculum in that way. They eliminate shit that doesn't matter, and they're all outpacing us. And because we're America, and we can never admit that the ideas of Ronald Reagan somehow were wrong. Like, that's really what this boils down to. In 1980, Republicans are like, "Fuck this. We're going all in on getting rid of government." And since you can't ever admit that you were wrong, you just have to try shitty things. And you can't learn from other people who are doing it the right way. You have to do it the American way. And that's why we're struggling in school. You want to watch these red states fall apart? Like, if the Department of Education actually gets disbanded, like if Trump can't do that by executive order, Congress has to come in. They have to remove the Department of Education. That's what the courts are going to rule. But let's just say we get rid of the Department of Education. The disparity between red states and blue states almost overnight will become far more noticeable. And it will just be red states just and blue states. It's already kind of split that way, because as much as Donald Trump wants to say, I gave it back to the states, curriculum was already decided on a state level. We already know who's good at educating. And guess what? It's not Republicans. They're the worst. Literally the bottom 10, all red states. They are the worst at educating children. But and it's not close. I live in the 50th ranked state for education. If you're shout out Oklahoma, there's number 49. If you're from Mississippi, if you're from Louisiana, if you're from Alabama, if you're from Oklahoma, if you're from Missouri, any of those states, Tennessee, Kentucky, you guys are struggling. But if you're from Massachusetts, maybe New Jersey, Washington, Oregon, you're doing a lot better. And even California, who like has this weird split because they're so massive and they have so many red areas that like they're like in the middle. And if you look at the data, want to guess what's pulling them down? I bet it's not blue. I bet it's not blue counties. I bet it's not blue school boards. I bet if you break down California's academic, like their testing, I bet when you go and you look at testing, it'll be the red counties. It'll be the places that are represented by red school boards that are struggling the most. And this is what's baffling to me. You guys are all on board with this. Like, you're just cool with it because you haven't educated yourself enough to understand what these issues are. You're playing a team game. It's sports to you. And you're just like, we will never admit that we're wrong because our leader never admits that they're wrong. And we're just going to go along with Republicans while they do this shit. Openly, though, like behind closed doors and openly, they're telling you what they want to do. They want to privatize schools, and it doesn't work. Again, why are you on board with this? None of you can make an argument. In fact, we're open. Come on up. Make your argument. Make your argument for why we should get rid of the Department of Education. I'm all ears. I'll give you 5 minutes to give me your best argument. We can have a discussion about it. Tell me why we should get rid of the Department of Education. Tell me how the Department of Education is hurting Americans, and tell me how defunding it will make things better. I don't think anybody can.